Thanks for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 124. I'm your host, Greg Galb, and we've got a great gang going here. Got John and Mike and Luff and Alan and Tony and John and Paul and Neil and Paul. And wait, Paul? Don and Pete and Chris and Jim and Kevin, Alan and Dennis and Lloyd and other people. So let's talk about slot cars. Does anybody have any show and tell they'd like to share? If so, please raise your virtual hand or your real hand, and I'll try to remember to get back to Ellen. So Tony has his virtual hand up. Are you ready to show and share, Tony?
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
Anybody use their chassis flattener yet?
I don't have one.
I thought someone else was on there.
George had one, but I don't think he's here right now. I don't see Area 51 on the list.
I have one.
Haven't used it though?
Have you used it?
Have you used it yet, Jim?
Yes, I have. You're talking about the NSR, right?
Yeah. Good results.
With NSR chassis, yes. With other chassis, I'm still experimenting.
Oh, well, I'm experimenting as well. This is what happened.
Oh no.
Which chassis is that?
That's a slot.
It's a Ninko, I think.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, Ninko. Yeah, I see it now. Wow.
I had it on manual.
Oh well,
How
that's
long on manual?
And I had a call of nature. And when I finished the call of nature, someone was at the front door. I opened the front door. By the time I come back, I forgot all about this. And that's what happened. And everyone's can make a mistake in the first time, can't they? Well, that's it. That's my mistake.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, you know, that's how Nike tennis soles were invented, on a waffle maker. Maybe you have something there.
Yeah.
Wow, I love how you can see all the magnet spots.
Just cut the holes out and lighten the chassis.
The chassis is all twisted.
Wow.
Yeah, but is it flat?
Right?
I see.
Yeah, it's flat.
Where the magnets touch.
Yeah, don't
Crispy.
use manual mode unless you can stay there the whole. If that had, yeah. Next time you do that and somebody rings the doorbell, turn it off. Turn it off and then go answer the door.
Chicken fried chassis.
Exactly. All right. Thanks for your cautionary tale, Tony. Appreciate that. Alan, you are next, sir.
Yeah, stuff in the post this week. This is nice. Black Arrow. I like Black Arrow. This came from a French distributor, Slot Car Union. And you know, Black Arrow box, eco, like that. No plastic. It's good. Black Arrow Ferrari. Some decals that I won't use. I'll get to that later. The chassis. Crystal work. This I will use, actually, the crystal work, because normally I put Lexan crystal work in, but it makes the whole body too fragile. A whole load of stuff into the edge work that I'm probably never going to use, including the interior, which I will never use. And then the meat and potatoes. Axles, which I won't use because I'm using titanium ones. Some wheel trims I won't use because I'm getting 3D printed ones. I've got long, but a third of the weight. And a few other bits and pieces in there. The Del rim, front rims, and the alloy rear rims, which are just, I don't know if you can see the alloy rear rims through this, but they are wonderful things. So this decal sheet that came with the car, not using that. I ordered, didn't even open it yet. Le Mans decals. To go on there, so 2 sets of these, and hopefully that will make a nice car for Stoke-on-Trent, the Stafford Club, in 3 weeks' time, doing oxygen digital. As a prep, it's got to be an MX-16 motor, so got 2 of these, and those will be run in and gently caressed into performing well, and a couple of titanium axles. So maybe in the slot car chat on the Wednesday, that's in 2 weeks' time, it's on this time zone, and they show you the final thing. The only thing that I'm not sure about is the color for this. I really would like to get a deeper, richer red than the Ferrari I made before, which looked a bit too plasticky and toy-like. I want something, really deep. So that was my show and tell. That's what I got this week.
Alan, how will you break your motors in?
There's no single answer to that because every motor's different. There are some motors I don't run in. The Polycar FF50 motors, for instance, the slim can, the brushes are so soft on those. If you dip them in fluids, 5 minutes and the brushes are gone. So I really don't. The NSR King motors can take an amazing amount of punishment in liquids before they bed in. But typically I'll run, say, something like an NSR motor for 15 minutes at 4 volts in liquid, and then run it for about 4 or 5 hours dry. The small can motors, the MX16 it's probably about 10 or 15 minutes again, but they really only come into their own after track time, lots and lots and lots of track time. Some of my best motors are the older motors. We've got an NSR King 25 that was one of the first motors I bought as a retrofit, and that motor is now nearly 7 years old, and that King 25 is now really very close to running at 30k. I clean it every now and again. It's just really nicely bedding in. I think electric motors, they reach their peak just before they go kaput. So, that's the thing. I mean, when a motor's really performing, you think this is the best motor I've ever had, expect that next week it's not going to work at all. That's bin worthy then. So
What kind of fluids do you use for the
sorry, not telling you that.
Oh.
I'll tell everybody anything I know about slot cars and chassis and setup, but the fluids, everybody has their own thing they run the car in. What I would say is it's an oil, and if anybody that knows me knows that I don't use, for example, it won't be diesel or anything like that. It won't have been designed to run electric motors in. I would choose something that was designed to do the job. So that's what I would do. But no, that's the one thing I won't share. Only 2 of my team buddies know exactly what that is. Nobody else does. So sorry, not sharing that. Keeping that to myself.
The NSA will find out for us.
It's literally a secret sauce.
No, it's not a secret sauce. Everything's commercially available. So for example, tire cleaning, urethanes. If anybody's using urethanes and they want their tires cleaned, I don't think you can do better than this. This is something called Amber Clean. It's a solvent, and it will go onto the tires with a cotton bud. Don't spray it on your chassis, okay, because it's detrimental to plastics. It dries in about 15 seconds, and it completely takes all the oil off the tire. So for urethane, this is one I like to use. Not cheap. I think it's about 10 or 15 pounds for 1 can in the UK. So, I'll share my lotions and potions, but the motor lotions and potions, sorry, keeping that to myself, guys.
STP.
But that one thing, yeah. STP oil, yeah. Well, thank you for showing off your new car kit, and we look forward to seeing the build on that.
Alan, are you going to sell off all the parts of that NSR, of that Black Arrow kit that you don't use?
I hadn't considered it.
Oh,
I have a box full of plastic parts.
Ah,
But, yeah, the thing is, with these Disca events, Dennis, I build the car, and it's 50-50 whether the car comes back even usable. After the last event, the car was destroyed. I mean, everything was destroyed. So there was nothing to keep. It was just mad. Why, if you got somebody who would like those Black Arrow parts?
yeah, me.
Okay.
There's things, I think things like if you're not using the wheel inserts, if you're not using the body parts, and you're not going to use them, what do you do with them? Do you throw them away, or do you just put them in a box somewhere and hoard them?
Yeah, I have several boxes. Like, let me just show you these kind of things. They're just little toolboxes.
Yeah.
This is my motors box, so I got that, and all of the bits and pieces and plastics and trims go into those boxes. And it's surprising how many times I'm building something and think, what I need is a driver's helmet. So I'll go into my interiors box and all the full interiors I tore out of cars to put Lexan interiors in, and look at the helmets on the different things. I kind of pick out what I want. So, I do find them useful.
Okay.
And I do have a cupful, but basically it's debris, it's plastic debris, all sorts of stuff. I have no idea what's there, but if I'm looking for something or looking for inspiration, I take that, spread it on the table, kind of look around, But
yeah, that's what I do too. But sometimes the black arrow parts are not always that easy to find. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's carry on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, looks like Neil, you are ready to go, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So everybody has to have one of these.
Of course.
Actually, no.
Me neither.
Us 80s
Not blue
babies.
and yellow.
As you know, I'm not into a whole lot of race cars, but I do like trucks.
Cool.
That's the fly truck, Neil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have, this is my fourth one. I don't buy them all, but sometimes, they just like race cars, if they look cool, you buy it.
They are cool.
But that's it. That's
The
all I got.
MANs actually work pretty well.
I think they run great.
Yeah.
You ever watch the real ones race?
Oh, that's fun.
Oh yes, it's wild.
It is.
It's like, how do they stay on four wheels? So top heavy, but that's all I got.
And to see all that steam coming out of their brakes because they water spray the brakes to keep them cool.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
always the fun part.
Driving around, almost like driving around on a wet track. There's so much
Yeah.
water coming out of those
And
things.
they're electronically limited to 100 miles an hour top speed. So that
Oh really? I didn't know
keeps
that.
everything very close together.
Ah. They are wild.
Machine tape one round, what's the name? Brands Hatch.
Rich, are you meaning to share your screen? Fortunately, it's not anything untoward, but I'm thinking, no, I'm going to stop that. Rich, you probably want to turn your microphone on if you want to do some screen sharing so we know what we're waiting for. So maybe we'll come back to you later. Are you all done then, Neil? Okay. And let
Although
me know.
Rich had some really nice stamen there.
Yes, thanks. Neil, let me know if you want some of those guide spacer things for your trucks, and I'll send you some.
I clicked the wrong button.
Okay, it happens. All right, yeah. So yeah, PM me your mail, and I'll get you some of those guide things. Alrighty, Alan, you are next, sir.
Here, and hopefully I'll be able to make the transition from one to another without blowing up the damn computer. So we'll start with number one. And there's the latest that I'm working on in my body shop. And this is a URD C83 that won the Le Mans. I think it was back in '83. And hopefully the end result will kind of look what's behind me.
I mean, it's hard to you can't screen share and see your picture very clearly at the same time. Can you zoom in on your model there so we see it a bit more detail? There we go. Looking good so far.
Yeah, we're getting there. Like I say, I got the. Hopefully the end result will somewhat resemble what's behind me.
Yep.
And we'll try for this one right here. I don't know if you can see it or not. Is it showing up?
Not unless you're you're gonna have to stop the share on the 3D builder and then start a new share on whatever you're trying to show us.
Okay.
Or I stopped your share for you. So now you should be able to share whatever you want to share.
I was having trouble finding it. There's
I have the
the-
power.
This is why it's going to take me forever to show.
There.
Okay, so that looks like the inside of a brushless motor.
Yeah, kind of. Well, we're getting there. This is something that Dewan was inquiring about. This is the start of a centerline wheel
Yes, yes,
that he was wanting for his Camaro Z28.
yes, yes, yes.
I've got a little bit more work to do on it, sir, but we'll get there and send some to you shortly.
I am excited.
Good. I don't know if you can get a little more of a close-up or not.
Hey, awesome.
Got to get the lug nuts in there, and I got to put that proper rib on there for the scale electric. That's it from this side.
All right, good looking projects. Look forward to seeing those come to completion. And Dewan, you are up next.
Wow, and I'm not quite ready. I thought that my photos were sent up, but they weren't sent up. But anyway, I guess I'll just do what I do. Yeah, for whatever reason, I had all the photos except the ones that I wanted to show. But I did pick up a couple of cars. I don't show much cars, and I'm not really into race cars per se. I like street cars and novelty things. But this was one that I just, when I found it, it was under a rare set of, I know you probably can't see it that well, but it's one of the rare Carrera cars. It's the old, yeah, the old Batmobile.
Batman Forever.
And so, yeah, I picked it up. I don't know if you can see the, oh boy, I know this is hard to get this. I should turn my background off.
You got to turn your background off, yeah.
Yeah. Let me try that. Let me see. Hold
That's
on.
right.
Well, anyway, that's just one car. I have the pictures that was showing it a lot better than me just picking up. And then I also picked up a couple. Well, it's kind of hard to show these two. Let me go ahead and turn my background off.
Okay.
Video. Oop, I did blur. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Then turn your camera back on.
Yeah, let me turn the video back on.
And then uncheck.
Yeah.
When you uncheck blur my
Yeah,
background, you'll get 0. There you go.
And almost there.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. But anyway, well, this is my tray of I have a 4-laner, so I do almost everything in what's considered an IROC type of environment. So I had 3 of these Carrera Cabriolet convertibles of Porsche 911s, and I just got my 4th one, which is the orange one. The orange one, right? Whoa. My hands in the wrong position. This right here, yeah. This is the new one I just picked up. And it's an old Evolution model. And so now when I race, like I said, I have a collection of 4 cars. I provide all the cars for one that's racing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it for now. I did get the Blues Brother car. If that means anything. But everyone has that, you know.
I've been debating on that. I mean, I like the Blues Brothers as much as the next guy, but not like for a lot, you know. So I'm like, yeah, do I want? I don't think it'll fit in my car drawers because of the big old speaker on top.
Exactly, it doesn't fit very well, but and it's not as top heavy as I had anticipated it to be. It runs decent for an oddball car.
Yeah.
And like Neil, I collect a lot of the trucks. I think I have about 8 of the Carrera and Fly trucks. And so again, I do those as part of my little IROC. So we all run trucks. We all run the VW vans. We all run, you know, just 4 of whatever I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it.
All right. Cool beans. Thanks, Dewan. And Big Den has his hand up for some show and tell. Go ahead, Big Den.
Good Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, wherever you happen to be in the world. Yeah, first of all, I've got to say I'm overcoming a little bit of grief to start with, and that is that the HOS chassis I showed you last week, that horrible looking thing, is actually someone's bid on it, you know, so I don't know what to make of that. So I'm just really, really at a loss for a minute. But anyway,
yeah, it's kind of like having your hopes on the ugliest dog in the pound and someone takes it.
Yeah, well,
Snooze, you lose.
thank goodness someone has, John. So I'll now do a screen share. So and hopefully we're up there, right? This digging out these couple of old chassis I'm about to show you was inspired by Mike talking about building a chassis, a brass chassis for his, or a hybrid chassis for his one of his Carrera bodies or something. BMW, yeah. Now it's not exactly what you'd call a simple chassis, but this one wasn't built by me, but it took me back to 1974 when I went to a track in Hobart in Tasmania. It was in a place called Watson's Wireless, which was a radio business, and the track was called Watson's Glen Slot Car Club. So that was just a little bit of a play on the Watkins Glen words there. This was a race for an open wheel or Formula One race for our state association, TASCRA, way back in the 70s. And this was one of 4 chassis built by the local members. They were all 4-wheel drives running Lotus 49 bodies. This particular one just had a single motor, as you can see, with a drive shaft up to take the power to the front wheels. In the middle was sort of a little, where I'm hovering around there, is a little universal joint built out of bits and pieces and little bits of thin piano wire to hold it all together. The front wheels were actually turned down and made by one of the local guys. So just moving along to the next one, that's the bottom look at the chassis, and it looks like it was almost, the top of it too, looks like it was built out of galvanized iron, the main chassis. It's just got that zinky looking color to it.
Yep, looks like it.
Yeah. And another one, look there. You can see there that the motor box actually had a hinging retainer clip on it to get the motor in and out.
Cool stuff, man.
Yeah, that's
Cool
some sort of I think it's Mura C can, but
it's a C can, one of the early C cans.
But actually, in the day, the motor of choice for that's something I've put in as an afterthought when I got hold of the chassis. But the main motor that the guys ran down there at that time was called a Champion Black Power, which yourself and Chris may recall from the 40-year distant past.
Huh?
So moving along again, just another look at it there. And again,
You don't have the rear end of it?
no. Well, as you see, I'm not sure where that went to, Dennis. I mean, I actually bought this off the owner probably in the late 1990s. So I could barely remember. I know the guy I got it off, and I still see him from time to time. But they were bevel gears running, front and rear, and as I said, the front wheels made by one of the locals. I'll just go back to that one there. Now, before I go on to the next one, I'll just grab up my my cheat notes here somewhere. One of the most memorable thing about bringing this chassis up is that trip 40 years ago was the start of several friendships that I'm still enjoying these, up to the current date. Three of us went down from Launceston, and we were built by a friend called billeted, I should say. We were given somewhere to stay for the weekend by one of my friends who I saw just last week, called Jerry. So you know, there's a lot of memories just coming out of looking at that chassis. We didn't do very well on the track because the locals just wiped the floor with this, with the specially built 4-wheel drive chassis. But as I said, it brings back a lot of pleasant memories and, you know, things that I still share till today. So
that's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And now I'll move on to the. I'm just moving my thing, so I'll move on to the next one. This one actually was built by me, probably somewhere in the late 70s. My idea, probably inspired by the previous chassis. I'm not sure whether I'll show you the bottom of the chassis because the soldering work isn't quite as good as Sampson or Walker. So, but I'll do it anyway.
Back then, mine was not any better than that, so don't worry about it.
Back then, mine was probably a lot worse than that. So don't.
Oh well, yeah. Don't pass judgment on yourself till I turn it over, Chris.
Are they Cox gears on that? Then
Cox gears, yeah.
Yeah, they are Cox gears, aren't they?
Yeah,
yeah, they are Cox gears, and I was running a 26D motor in it there. There was a drop arm in it and a guide, so it did actually go, but that's probably went in another car some years later. Orange donut tires on the back of it there. Cox,
1/8 axles all the way through too.
All 1/8 dinners, yeah, okay. Popping over just another look at it. There's the bottom of it, and the aforementioned sloppy soldering.
Back then we didn't have the good solder and the high capacity irons that we have these days.
Yeah. And another look at the bottom. And here's the lay shaft, which drives the front, is actually got 36D pinions, and I just had a piece of spring, like piano wire or something that was
94 piano wire,
yeah, 94 that fitted the
pinions and the tube.
36D pinions, and they have down the tube there, and as you can see, so that the wheels drive in the right orientation, the crown gears are on opposite sides, front and back.
Very cool.
So it was just a little bit. And if you think I might be having a lend of you, here they are, right beside me here. So
cool.
Yeah. So it was just a couple of these oddities I found in a box.
Clean them up and display them, man.
Yeah, well, I might even. Oh, the body I was running on the second one. My friend Jerry, he was into molding Lexan bodies. He was in it for about 40 years until he sold all his equipment and molds, so probably 6 or 7 years ago. And the body I had on that was a Surtees TS19, and that was the reason for the wing stay up the back, which held the wing in place, and the sort of the surround front, because it had a shovel nose on it. And I even had a pin mounting on the front there to keep the nose in place. So yeah, nice. Okay, that'll do me.
All right, 124 for 132nd then.
Yeah, 124. Oh yeah. I might even try, if I send you over the dimensions, could you 3D print me a body for it?
Yeah, certainly.
With those orange tires versus the black, are they both foam, or are they the same? Is there any difference? Do you guys know?
Jeremy, back in those days, orange and other exotic colors like blue and yellow seem to be seem to be the thing of the day. Yeah, black donuts weren't all that common that I can recall.
They didn't grip as well. That was the problem.
Right.
Maybe if you put orange donuts in your NSR tire trailer, you could turn them out to be black anyway. Might get Tony to have a bit of a go at that. So
yeah.
I'm trying to dig up a picture, Dan. I've got a couple of photographs. I've got a couple of those Cozine Champion black power motors around somewhere. See if I can find a picture and bring it up.
Yeah,
that'd be. Yeah, I think they had ball bearings both ends, Chris, from memory. I'm not 100% sure, but
could have been.
Yeah. Over to somebody else then.
And Jeremy, back in the day, I mean, right at the beginning of foam tires, the ones to have were gray, and they really gripped well. And then people started making black tires because everybody ran black. And after a while, some of the some of the professional guys started looking at different types of rubber, and obviously they found all these different rubbers in different colors, tried them all out, and for some reason or other, and they're all styrene butadiene rubber, SBR, and for some reason or other, whatever it is that they used to create the orange color, just created the best grip. There was a light blue color. John Sucres, who was one of the original pro racers of the late 60s, and he used to go and buy flip-flops, the rubber flip-flops that you use on the beach. And he used to get the blue ones and cut his donuts out of the flip-flops because that rubber gave him the best traction. And then everybody else, you could buy grays and blues and orange and green. There was an olive green, there was a gray, there was a light blue, there was a red, there was a tan, and those ones worked pretty well at one stage. Chris will remember some of those. But eventually then people started coming up with these new rubber compounds that are nowadays called natural rubber or fish rubber or whatever, and it was a different compound and gave much more grip with much better life. And so the old SBR rubber has been consigned to the annals of history now.
Even going back a little bit further than that, I don't remember it, but I'll just tell you about it anyway. It was, the first sponge tires, the first foam tires were model plane tires from Germany.
Yeah, that's right.
ECCO. And they had like a skin on the outside, so it looked like just a normal rubber tire.
Yeah.
But we used to, I'm not that old, we used to put them on the wheels with plyo bond adhesive and then sand them down. And as soon as you'd sand the skin off of them, you'd get the closed cell sponge that would come up. So that was the first. Now, these were nowhere near as good as the evolutions of sponge tires that came through, ending up with, as Dennis said, fish rubber. And the reason they called it fish, it smelled like dead fish if you pick it up and smelled a bunch of the tires. But yeah, every color in the rainbow, and every week colors changed, and you had to change different colors with different dye compounds. And to be honest with you, I'm glad we're back to black, basically. I think it's
I preferred I love the orange. All my old cars are still running the orange tires. Well, not running because they've gone crispy.
You can actually restore some of those. If they're big enough, you can just grind off the crispy and rub some high factor suntan lotion into them, and that softens them. Or some there's a guy on, I think he's on Facebook, who's extolling the virtues of some or other Dove skin cream at the moment that really does bring back tires. So you can get them back to a certain degree.
I'm going to have a play then.
Guys promoting
have a play.
Nivea screen, Nivea lotion.
I know what to do.
Or Nivea works well too. Yeah.
I'll have to rob the missus's makeup box.
So this is all news to me because I only got into slot cars recently. With these tires that you're talking about, was this before or after they started using glue?
It was around the same time, but I think that people started to realize that when you used foam tires, that if you started to glue, first of all, we used to glue the tire. Right, we used to rub the traction compound into the tire and clean it off, put it on the track, and it would go. And then people started putting it on the track and realizing, oh wow, it stays there a lot longer on the track if you put it on the track. So the two kind of developed together, I think.
Goop. We used to use loads of goop.
Oh,
well, and glue has evolved as well. Sort of.
Yeah.
The first additives were basically just common old castor oil, and you rub a little on the tire, put the car on the track, run the tires in, then clean the stuff off the track with a rag with lighter fluid. Then right around then, oil of wintergreen came in. Stunk like hell, worked well. And since then, there's been various transmission fluids and heavy oils and gunks that are put on specific parts of most of the tracks will have little strips called glue zones. So it went past putting the glue on the tires. You could only put glue into the glue section of the glue stations on the track. And then the stuff was great. You'd go to a pro race and you'd move your controller to the next station, and you have guys on your team gluing the glue zones. And depending if the glue zone was on a left-hand corner or a right-hand corner, so you'd either put a dot or two on the inside or a dot or two on the outside. While those guys were doing that, other guys on your team are running down the straights with great big rags and lighter fluid, getting or as much of the glue off the straight as you possibly could, which was slowing you down.
And cleaning the braid.
Yeah.
We used to have big rooster tails of goop. Used to have the straight that's about 125 foot long, and at the end of it used to be a hairpin, and you used to hit that about 3 foot before the corner, and you just get big sticky rooster tails coming off as you're braking through it.
The drag racers still do that.
Yeah. I remember going home after some big races in the mid 70s, and I'd have to have a shower. Like I'd have I'd touch my forehead or something and my hand wouldn't come off. It was just like sticky stuff.
But that wintergreen was beautiful smell. I used to love that. I used to love opening my slot car box up and going, yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Not the healthiest stuff for you, though.
No, that's why they banned it, didn't they?
Yeah. Plus, of course, it attacks all the plastics.
Right.
Yeah, that explains a lot, Paul.
And some of the early tracks had plastic surfaces, and I mean, if you use wintergreen on your scale electric cars, you could damage the track quite badly.
Everything we raced on was wooden tracks anyway, so that was.
Yeah, most slot car commercial tracks these days use what they call spray glue, where the owners will clean the track and then mist a light spray of a very diluted sticky stuff onto the surface, just coming into the corner, through the corner, and just out of the turns. And thereafter, most race rules don't allow you to apply anything to your tires at all.
Yeah.
So you run on the spray glue, and usually, if it's done properly, that's all you need.
Oh yeah. Well, the chassis technology now has come along so far,
and the tire technology too.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
All the tires are black, but that's the only commonality.
Right.
There are any number of different compounds. You can see the cell structure. Some of them are very dense. Some of them are a lot less dense. Some of them provide masses of traction on very low amounts of spray glue. Others are specially treated so that they don't have as much traction. Others are made to run through heavier glue spray. There are harder ones, softer ones. A lot of the really serious racers will have a durometer in their box, and they will match the hardness of the tires from one side of the car to the other and select the tires based on the hardness.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we combine that with different sizes of different diameters of the hub on which you mount the foam tire, and sometimes the material of the hub, whether it's magnesium or aluminum or plastic, nylon molded or carbon fiber, they all work differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole science.
It's a black art more than a science, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Or in this case, orange.
An orange.
Yeah. Well.
All right. I think we're ready to move on. Mike, you've got your hand up, and then we'll get to Dewan.
Oh, okay. This is for Chris.
Okay. Good for you.
The Hacko 601. Well done.
Brad
Well
should
done.
be here tomorrow, so let the games begin, so to speak.
You
which-
you didn't shop where
which-
Wayne shops, did you? You didn't pay like $2 for that or something, did you?
Oh,
No.
which tip did you get with that, Mike?
yeah.
I got the wider one, the 1/4 inch wide,
Okay, good.
6.5 mil.
Is that what it came with, or you bought one as well?
No, I bought that one as well.
Okay, good.
Because the smaller one sometimes is also very useful.
Oh, it's great for any of your wiring and stuff. Like it's spectacular, and it's not, the small one's not that small. Like it's not
No,
puny
it's
small.
3/8 instead of a.
Yeah, I mean you
Or
can, and you use flux and all. Yeah, there you go.
Is that the preferred brand that you guys use?
Hacko,
That's the-
yeah.
Which
Yeah.
one is it?
FX
This one is
601.
smaller.
It's called Hacko, Hakko. And that particular iron is the FX601.
Yeah.
And the big advantage of that is it has its temperature control in the handle. So you don't need a separate temperature controller. The only thing that's a little, the only negative about that iron is the thickness and the lack of flexibility of the lead. It's a very thick, heavy lead.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, they just strip the insulation off the outside.
Yeah.
Or like me, I actually took it apart and I put a Weller lead into mine.
Yeah. Was that Jeremy asking that?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. The only other thing you want to sort of look at with that iron, if you go online, there are some knockoff 601s as well. And they will generally outline in the description that it's a 47-watt iron. The true FX 601 is a 67-watt iron, and that's the one you want to get. There's nothing wrong with 47 watts at all. It's just that there have been, if you go online, there's been some quality issues with the whole iron of the knockoffs.
Okay, thanks.
Buy quality, buy once. All right, so
And
then-
Michael, please do not ever use a wet sponge to clean the tip of that iron.
Okay.
Do not ever do that.
Yeah.
Get yourself some tip cleaning and tinning. It's a little compound that comes in a little round tin. You can get it from Hacko and you can get it from Radio Shack and a couple of other places. And get yourself some of that brass. It looks like a
Curly
scour.
Yeah.
Oh,
brass
yeah.
scourer.
Yeah, I saw that and I was wondering about that. So yeah, I'll pick that up.
Between those two, that's the best way to do it. If you use a Alan's got it there. Alan's got it right in front of his face. Alan Lautenschlager. Yeah, that's
There you
the
go.
stuff. That's what you need. That and the little tip cleaning can. That's the way to keep those tips clean. Then, yeah, Tony P has one as well. That's the stuff. And then the last tip is, if you'll excuse the pun, the last tip is get yourself a little fan of some sort. And while you have the iron on and while it's turned up, have a fan blowing some air across the iron. It helps to keep the temperature of the tip down while you're not using it, and it stops all that oxidation on the tip.
Yeah.
And makes the tips last a lot longer.
Where
You mean like this?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Where'd you get that from, Michael?
Ow!
One of the other guys that I raced with gave it to me.
Oh, no, the 601. He gave.
Oh, I got it from Amazon.
Okay. If you, before they all disappear, I'm not sure if they will or not. It's a couple of good, better slot shops sell a little block of stuff. It's called a Salamoniac block.
Okay.
And if your tip's really bad, that's a good thing to get the tips back as well.
Okay.
You know that PCA Schlop Parts sells them. It's like $6 for a little block, and that'll last your grandkids.
What's it called again?
A Salamoniac block.
SAL, the second word, ammoniac. AMMONIAC.
Okay. So PCH has it?
Yeah, I'm sure most places do. I haven't checked her. I was looking there the other day and they had them at $6 or $7 for, it looks like a little bar of soap kind of thing, and you
Okay.
just wipe the tip on it. I'm not sure how much longer they'll keep those things around, so it's a good thing to have for an iron.
I assume it's one of those things that lasts forever.
I was gonna say, it looks like we're converting some people to brass chassis building. This is awesome.
This is the other stuff that you need to look for. Greg can highlight that
I'm
for
working
us.
on it. There we go. Yep, tip cleaner.
Oh, okay.
How do you spell the salmoniac again?
SAL and then ammoniac, AMMONIAC.
Okay.
It's 2 words, but there's some on
2
Amazon
words.
for a half pound for like $15.
Yeah, you don't need that much.
That'll last everyone on the forum here for 100 years.
I was just trying to find it on PCH. And apparently I keep spelling it
And
wrong.
Michael,
Worldwide Sal Ammoniac Club.
You use liquid acid flux,
Yes, I will.
okay? Either Stay Clean or Lucky Bob's.
Yeah, I've got some on order from Lucky Bob's.
Perfect. And that's only for mechanical joints. Do not get that
Correct.
in any
Yeah.
electrical
No,
stuff.
I'm familiar with that from
Okay, sorry.
doing
Okay.
wiring work and stuff.
And what solder do you have?
Well, I have acid core solder right now, but
That's fine.
It's fine for what's it for mechanical stuff. How thick is it? What's the diameter of this? When is it? Oh, that's like
Jesus.
Ow. This is
We're making slot car chassis.
what's called
That's for highway bridges.
He was
Yeah,
a lineman,
you-
right?
That's
This
not
is
for a
plumber
plumber's
quality,
chassis. That's for a plumber.
That's
plumber grade soldering. Right?
I have it left over from my days as a wrench, so
Yeah. Might get some different sizes than.
yeah. I'm assuming you want thinner sizes.
That would be nice. And you've used acid flux before, have you, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, so you gotta clean the crap out of it after you. Okay, perfect.
I went looking for solder just to show you, but I don't know whether Chris gave you some tips there, but you don't want to go above 25 or 30 thousandths diameter. Thin stuff is better, way better, especially if you're going to learn how to solder properly, where you heat the part and then feed the solder into the part rather than carrying it from the coil of solder to the joint on the tip of the soldering iron.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, good stuff.
Good to know.
Looking forward to see some brass chassis coming out of Mike's workshop.
Yeah, nice.
And,
What's he building them on?
Oh, yeah, that's the next thing. Is there a jig?
Yeah, what jig are you using?
Yeah, that's ordered too. That should be here tomorrow. I cheaped out because I want to see if I'm really committed to this. But if I do, I'll get one of the
Precision slot cars.
precision jigs.
Yeah, I like those.
They're really nice.
I'm still using the one that I had in the 80s.
Now, that was for those old SCD ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
Well, I'll
great.
tell you, there's probably been more chassis built over the years on a piece of graph paper than anything else over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was.
Yep.
That's the one, Neil. Yep.
You don't want that, Neil, do you?
Hold that back up so we can
Give
see
you
it.
$5 for it.
And these things are worth their weight in gold, even if you're not scratch building a chassis. If you are a plastic car racer and you're trying to put a front axle tube in a car or set some bushings up, having a jig that aligns your axles perfectly squarely is a godsend.
Are they no longer made?
They are. No, those are made.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're
I
about
think
85
SCD
bucks
ones
if
are
I
still being made as well.
Can't beat a jig.
I think I might have bought that from PCH maybe.
Oh, you can get
Yeah.
them direct from Precision Slot Crafts.
Yeah. And yeah, and they make all different kinds of jigs in different sizes. Some of them are specific to a 24 scale flexi chassis or not. And some of them are sort of more universal.
Yeah, you got to look for the ones that say retro.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then the one that Paul was talking about is this one, which is the SCD jig. And I don't know what it was in the early days. I think they were asbestos, but they're not.
They are asbestos.
Are they still?
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't know about now, but my
Yeah.
one certainly is asbestos.
Yeah, mine was too.
So you build you bend your metal around the jig, and do you solder right on that then?
The reason for all the pins is to hold the axles in place while you're working. And then so you build the car. Let me see if I can find some photos of a car on the jig, and then we can come back to that. I'll be back to you.
All right, we'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
And,
You mean nobody uses the Rusket Adjusto jig anymore?
No, if anyone has one, please send it to John Kidd.
Oh, no.
DOD
collection.
Actually,
Yeah, real.
he already has one. So if anybody's got one that doesn't want it, send it to me because I want one for my collection. But I really don't feel like paying the kind of crazy prices that you see on eBay for those things these days.
Well, not only that, you try and get it with the second generation box. It's tough. Yeah.
All right, Dewan, you put your hand back up. What's up?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of an update on something I shared through this. That was a year ago, in case you don't see the dates there, September.
Oh, I remember that. Wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't that the thing about the shipping too? That he wanted like $3 million for shipping or something?
No, it was just $28 for shipping. But anyway, that was that's what was a year ago. And recently, so I can do this. I have to stop my share.
It went for $2.
And then now, as of this week, I just didn't want anybody to miss out on this opportunity. You can get it for 15% off.
What the bargain?
1 year later. So if you continue this pattern, I'm sure in about 15, 20 years.
Actually, Dewan, all we have to do is wait for the estate sale.
Yeah.
Some kid down the block will get it then.
For 10 cents.
Anyway, I just want to share that with you. Those that were, waiting around, holding your breath for this thing to go down. It's gone down.
I can't believe it hasn't sold.
Yeah, that's such a great price.
1 year later. Okay, there we go.
It's not even AFA graded.
And the thing about it, this is used.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's got a part that's missing and it's cracked on the rear that says there.
Yeah, well, it's more. Yeah, I think the crack is more than just the part. I mean, that's pretty cracked.
But it's got a photocopy of the original ad.
Oh, that's got to be worth 2,000.
Yeah, it spices things up a bit to have a photocopy.
All right. Anyway, I just wanted to bring everybody up to date. That's all.
Well, I guess Burt Ward will have to wait then.
Poor guy.
So Dewan, you're gonna have it for show and tell next week?
Not happening here. No.
Yeah, Dewan has 2 of them.
Yeah, he's already got 2. All right, Alan, you put your hand back up. What's up, Alan?
Oh yeah, here we go. You guys remember this Batmobile that I built?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
$3,000.
Yeah. Not selling it. So put any price you want, it's not for sale. But I have been working on.
Alan, what is that on? What was that on? What was it sitting on?
Oh,
Yeah, you're.
Oh, we'll talk about that a bit later. Let me do my Batmobiles first.
Okay.
Now I've been working on the Keaton Batmobile, and this is an Ashima kit, which is this one I got off eBay. And it's still a bit fragile because I've not really finished it yet, but I put an NSR drop arm and glued that into place with a thunder slot guide. Haven't yet put anything, the things, sprayed or anything, but I'm sort of getting there. And I was just inspired by Dewan's Batmobile things going on. And I'm just gonna.
That looks great, Alan. That looks great.
Well, I'm just going to turn this light off. Maybe this will give you a better view.
I was just gonna say, are you gonna put some lights into it?
So
Well
cool.
done.
LEDs.
Very cool.
Wow.
Very, very cool.
So the idea is to get, I've got 3 Batmobiles to build. This is the second one. And I'm going to try and build the third one, which will be more than I can handle, I'm sure, because it's this guy, which is the least slotted version possible. So you know the thing. I mean, I've opened this up and had a look, and I've really bitten off more than I can chew with this one. If I can turn this into a slot car, someone's got to buy me a beer at Christmas.
Didn't scale
That would be a good track cleaner.
Sorry, carry on.
That would be a good track cleaner.
Could be. Clean your track with style, for sure, yeah.
Didn't Skill Extra make one of those?
Oh, God, yeah. You don't even want to see the Skill Extra one, especially the Keaton Batmobile. It's absolutely nauseous. It's probably the worst thing you've ever seen. Let me just get something out of the box here. Someone just asked me quickly about this. This is my rolling road that I built. This is probably about 5 years old. And this is not a scrutineering tool. This is a tuning tool I built. And I'll just set it up quickly. I'm trying to do everything in reverse because you imagine I don't really look at it this direction. But I can, hope that's not too loud. I can rev a car up on the rolling road and make adjustments and make conclusions about what the motor's doing based on this rolling road. I mean, if I open this, this is properly packed in here. I mean, it's very small footprint, and I know Henry's made one in Holland, but his objective was very different. His objective was scrutineering, and my objective was tuning. So, you know, they're just different things. This is about 4 or 5 years old, and I was driven to build this because I don't do the home track thing, and I got tired of turning up to the club with cars, putting them on the track, and they were stone dead. So I just, as a first, I just wanted to check the cars, but then it evolved into, this is version 3, and version 4 will have all sorts of things in it as well. But it's just a matter of how motivated I get to get that done. I mean, Henry is clearly much more motivated than I am to build these things. I build one for me, and I'm happy. Henry wants to dominate the world. It's a different deal.
Hey, you need to get with Jeremy and put tire weights on the 4 corners of that thing.
Yeah.
No. In fact, that would not be. What I would like to do is to, the next version will, if I get to build it, will have a drag motor so that I can make the car drive a drag motor and measure the power that the car is generating. Won't be perfect because it's still driving a roller through the tires of the car. Won't be perfect. I'd also like to build in some oxygen technology, and not as Henry's built it in, just somewhere to plug your controller in. I'm talking about something that will genuinely check whether your LED emitter is working properly, and when you hit the lane change, whether the car does trigger the lane change. You know, those kind of things. And that's beyond my capability. So I'm going to have to, you know, work quite hard to get that, and I don't know how motivated I will be to do that. I suppose that depends how serious I get now with this oxygen racing as opposed to my animal racing. But I wasn't planning to show that tonight, but there you go.
Well,
Can
thank you.
Can I do a quick pick for Jeremy here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Is that up?
Yep.
Okay.
Got there ahead of me.
Purpose, yeah, well, I didn't find anything too dramatic, but all the jigs have a series of holes. So you can put pins in and align the axles, make sure they're all square. A series of holes up here allows you to vary the wheelbase depending on the wheelbase of your body. And then this is sort of like a finished article here, but I would have inserted pins here on either side of these wires to make sure that the wires ran parallel front to back, up and down, blah, blah, blah. What this doesn't have, these normally come with little blocks, different size blocks. So you put the blocks over the axles, which replicate the size of the tires you're going to use. So you know not only are the axles parallel, they will be on the same horizontal plane this way. So the chassis will be nice and flat. So I remember making these things as a kid out of pieces of plywood and just drilling some holes in them for chassis, and they work just fine. A chassis jig, if you're going to do a lot of work, and if you're serious about 32nd scale racing, jigs can really help out. They're wonderful things to have.
This is durable enough to solder directly on top of, right?
Well, you can see all, yes. Every once in a while, I'll get some Ajax out in a scrub brush and clean them off and stuff like that. But yes, they do. They don't stay pure lily white for long.
Well, it's made of corian, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, most of them are corian or something similar to corian. They stand up to soldering quite well. They do not stand up to to little butane torches very well, but
no. You can. A lot of guys will use those little ceramic blocks with a billion little pinholes in them.
Mm-hmm.
They're really inexpensive. They work just fine. Yeah. And again, I built probably more chassis when I was a kid on a piece of graph paper and just tried to line the whole thing up on one of my mom's tables that I got in big trouble for. But,
did you
at least you didn't drill holes in the table.
Well?
Sorry?
Did you burn your mum's table as well? Because I certainly did.
Yeah.
Well, you get the stories of the guys back in the 60s going to these big races around the US and going into their hotels and actually drilling holes in the table of the hotel room to form a jig. Alan's got jig wheels in front of him there.
Yeah.
All right, and those are sized for a combination of a particular wheel size and clearance. So they calculate the clearance in for you. So those ones have got maybe 40 thousandths clearance or a 760 tire or whatever, and they're marked. I've got a couple of things.
Sorry,
there you go.
but yep, there's one of the ceramic things that Chris was talking about.
Yep. Works just fine.
Yep. And you can notice this one's from Australia. So
the SCD ones have the wheels on them, don't they? Mine have got little set of steel wheels at the front and a bigger set at the back.
Yeah, and you use all kinds of little pins and things to hold everything in place. This one, I was just setting it up on the gears. I have another photo that I thought that I was going to put up. I put the wrong one up. This one. There you could see there's a set of jig wheels on the rear. And then pins down this front to hold things in place. A spacer under the guide, things like that. So it just makes it really, really easy to build it square and flat and straight.
So Dennis, are they better than the SCD ones?
They're more, the precision slot cast jigs are probably a little more versatile because they have a lot more holes in them in places. So that, you can adjust your wheelbase by like a 1/16 of an inch at a time, or and they make them nowadays. Precision Slot Cars makes the 1/32 scale jig in imperial and metric measurements for wheelbase and width. The holes for the pins are still a 16th diameter, but it'll still take a 332 or a 1/8 or a 2mm axle. But the widths and the lengths can be either metric or imperial, depending on what you order.
So are they only available in America? Because I don't think I've ever seen one in this country. Have you had one, Alan?
I was going to ask you, Paul, if you've got a supply of, it seems like you've done the brass chassis before. I'm looking to try and find different bits and pieces. I can't find a lot.
No, wait a minute. Hold on. Petrucci has to have one or two. Petrucci has everything.
No, I looked on Beta just now, Beta Classics, and they haven't got it on there at all.
Okay, so that's using it for a plastic chassis.
Yeah, if you get one, these are axle blocks that are calibrated for different size. So this, it's hard to see, but they will give you a clearance depending on, so if I turn this down 21.5 mil at the bottom, if I put this flat and built the chassis flat on the plate, if I use 21.5 mil tires, this will give me 2 mil clearance. So this is a 2 mil block. They also make ones that are 1.5 mil blocks. On this, if you're putting an axle tube in, it ensures that the axle tube is perfectly flat, perfectly level, and all nice things. So these things, you can buy these. I think Alan had a designated one size one. These are neat because they give me 4 different sizes, and they make these in all different variations and stuff. So really make your life easier.
So again, is that just available only in the US? Because I can't find it anywhere in the UK.
Likely. I've talked to a couple of guys in Australia and New Zealand, and they have not had them.
You could probably order them direct. I'm pretty
yeah.
sure that Dave
Sure.
would ship to the UK. It's pslotcar.com. pslotcar.com.
Right.
I bought stuff off them. They do ship to the UK.
Oh, I thought you might have one.
There you
I
go.
haven't got one of those, but I've been looking at them. I bought something else off of the PH.
That's
So
the website.
The 2200, is that the one you got, Chris?
Yeah.
No, I have the 2201, which is metric.
I have the 2200.
Yeah.
And that's the
in fact, I have the very first 2200. Because I worked with Dave, with Russell and Dave to actually develop that.
And that does the 4 settings on the wheels as well. Is that just one setting on the wheels on that one?
On the jig wheels?
Yeah.
Should have 4.
Yeah, I think they're 4.
Okay.
Yeah, they're 4. Yeah, and they're set for 40 thousandths clearance. The front ones there's just one setting, one size, but the rears are 4 different sizes. Because when we first made this, we were making them for what we called Retro 32, which was a class we were starting out here.
If you get one, it's worthwhile. The metric one, they both come with one set of jig blocks or jig wheels, jig blocks. They do make different sizes, so it might not be a bad idea to see what it comes with. And if you're going to order, jig blocks are like $7 or $8 to order a different size set. It just gives you a little more versatility down the road. Having said that, as long as you saw in Dennis's picture, you can use 2 equal crown gears, or you can use wheels, you can use whatever you want. You'll just have to sort of figure out the diameter of the gear and or wheel and figure out what clearance that's going to give you with what size tire.
In a lot of cases, you use the gear because you want the gear to be level with the bottom of the chassis, and then you're going to size the tire later on to get the clearance that you want.
Right.
But in some cases, if you're starting with the tire, you have the wheel and tire already, particularly if you're doing rubber or silicone, then you've got to calculate the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to
Guys,
set 2 fast gears up.
Mhm.
And
I've
then-
got to go, so I'll see you guys next week.
See you.
Sorry to
Okay,
leave
be
you,
good.
but Man City are playing UEFA Champions League. I got to go watch. See
Hey,
you later.
Chris,
I
what
won't
would be
bother.
Hey,
I won't bother.
You can't,
Chris,
who
which
are
is
you
the best way
behind
to
there?
buy, metric or imperial?
I support a
Man
couple of anybody playing against Man United for a starter, and then I support Tottenham and I support Liverpool.
Oh,
but-
That's it. I thought you was a good friend. So now you're
What?
saying support.
You're an Arsenal man?
I just,
Oh,
I
yes.
just support
Oh,
Millwall.
Jesus Christ.
And
I'm
this
a
is why we
huge
don't
Spurs
talk
fan.
about sports on a slot car chat. So
Sorry, guys.
see you
I'm
next
away.
time, Dennis.
See you later. Bye.
You guys are supposed to be
Your
watching the
expertise.
24 scale worlds. They're on right now.
Hey, with those jigs, which would be better, the imperial or the metric? I like working in metric, but I'm in America where everybody's doing the imperial.
Well, everybody is, but I mean, most of the proxies will ask you for 2 mil clearance or something like that. So
Okay.
See,
that
you
is the
guys
lucky
took a really
Bob's
good
jig
time talking
that
about
is-
rubbish, huh? And I wanted to ask him about this rig. This is one I
Next
got
to
off
you
of
is-
John Underwood.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of those. They're good for
So
testing. They're good for making sure your
25
chassis
bucks.
is flat. That's about it.
It was $25 new, and it was discounted to $13.25. And John Underwood got this for £4.
Nice.
So it's an absolute bargain, and I got it off John for nothing on loan. Now he will get it back, but this just seems to be the kind of thing that's good for building the chassis I was building. And I built this Aeolus chassis, JK Aeolus with it, got everything up and running. It worked really well with a bit of help. So you know, those are the kind of things. This is okay, and this ran at North London last week, and it was worked quite well. But clearly, this won't be any good for building brass tube chassis and flat plate chassis from scratch.
Right.
This is just production chassis type stuff. So at some point, I'm going to need a better jig than this, and this
Yeah.
can go back to John.
Well, you depending on what I mean, there's jigs made specifically, Alan. I'm sure you know, for JKC 43s and this. Like they're all kinds of specific jigs with all the little bits and bobs you need to help you set up your chassis. So those are setup chassis, and then there are builder chassis, which are completely different. But not a lot of guys build anymore, anyway. So
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Mike, you still got your hand up? Or you got?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to tell Chris that I also ordered a bending jig. So, because I'm rubbish at just freehanding bending the wire.
oh, that's good. Which one did you get? RGO?
I got the from Slot Car Corner, the only one they had.
Okay. Yeah,
Can't
is that in your hand?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, that's in the package of stuff I got coming tomorrow. What
Okay.
what is in my hand is the Jaguar, and I got to do some testing with it. And for those that are wondering whether it works well on home tracks, oh yeah, it's by far and away the fastest Group C I've got. It's 3/10 faster than anything else on my track, and I just put some G25 tires on it and put the spring suspension in, which is de rigueur for my track now. And it's a rocket. Beautiful handling car. Goes as fast as Thunder Slots with suspension.
Mike, do you have the
It's
Nissan?
just as forgiving.
Mike, do you have the Nissan?
The Nissan
The GT, what is it, GTR?
GTR.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I was having trouble with.
Oh,
You
that's
wanna
right.
see how
Okay.
it handled? Watch me fly off the track a few times.
Right,
Take
right,
a
right.
look at the video.
Hey, Dennis, why don't you show him those tools that you use to bend the piano wire?
Oh, Dennis left.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dennis Sampson just left.
You can get, if you're experienced, if you want to get some wire bending pliers, get good ones. If you're a little leery about bending wire in pliers, which is not a bad thing to be afraid of. Get yourself a wire bending jig. It's like soldering. Like once you've done it for a while, you can actually make joints that look good, but at first it's not gonna happen. So
Yeah, well, I have tried bending it in a few instances and I decided the jig was a good idea.
yeah. Well, the nice thing about the jig is it's got a bunch of gradients on it, so you can replicate, like if you're building two main rails, you can replicate.
Interesting to see that the Jaguar earlier. This is the digital conversion for the Jaguar. We're racing at the weekend. Chimp Militia team racing at Stanborough. This was built by Mark Long of the Nascot Wood Club, and I've just made a few kind of cleanups and changes. One of the things that we found quite difficult, I don't know quite why, was to get this guide to self-center. It really does nicely now, but it didn't before. And routing the wires is sort of difficult. But as a digital conversion, this looks like a really, really good car. The wires on there I use are the purple black arrow ones, and they just seem to just pop this straight. So at the weekend, that's going to go out racing in anger, and we will see if it looks as good on the track as it does on my test bed and just by visual inspection.
Comparing chassis here.
Hey, you can see my wireness there. The reason I did that is because I wanted to have a plug-in chip. I'm starting to get, the chips are starting to get more expensive and my funds are starting to get less.
Yeah.
So this enables it to be removed.
Yeah, as a team, we don't do that. We build a car specifically for the job. I mean, if we're aggressively racing.
Yeah, well.
So no plugs, no weight, no nothing, you know, the minimum we can get away with. And then at the end, I mean, as I said, the Black Arrow Ferrari after the last event at Rockingham, that was just, there was nothing left of it. I could hardly keep any of it, everything, even the rear wheels were bent. So sometimes, you know, if you're racing aggressively and competitively, then just trying to make things replaceable and exchangeable and plug in, plug out chips doesn't really work very well for us.
Alan, did you have something you wanted to share?
Well, I just had a question. Early on, Alan was talking about oils and everything, and I'm curious, has anybody ever tried what we call slide oil here in the States?
Like
for what?
Basically, what it is it's
no.
As,
to be used for what, Alan?
I've been using it since the mid '60s as far as my lubricating my axles primarily.
That's fine.
What's its primary use?
The primary use is it's for instruments, slide trombones, trumpets. It's like water, but it's also a very fine lubricant, and it's nothing that you want to go run the next 6 races with. You want to go ahead and lube it up, run your race, and it hardly leaves any residue, but make sure you oil it again. It is not long lasting. But boy, it's some great stuff, at least in my opinion. I've been using it since the 60s.
Have you used it to break a motor in?
No, I use it strictly on bearings, on axle bearings.
Got you.
I don't think it would withstand a motor or gear.
Why would you use oil to break in a motor?
They're trying to guess Alan's magic potion for.
Well, I tell you, the best slot car motor builder in the world ever is a guy named Stewie Cofford, and he uses tap water to break in his motor.
I was going to say, that's what we used to use. Tap
And
water.
Stu, if you want to look up Stu's information, Stu got so good at building slot car motors, NASA approached him to develop the first world's brushless motors for NASA. So Stewie now has a multi-million-dollar business building high-end motors for dentists and medical stuff. He started out slot racing and was won, not him, but his motors have won gazillions of world championships.
And what did you say he used?
Tap water.
Tap water.
Depending on where you live, you better be cautious on your tap water.
Well, it's
If
not
you
going to
can
stay in the
drink it,
motor.
probably okay.
The purpose of using anything is basically as a lubricant between the comb and the face of the brush, which stops arcing. You don't want anything that unnaturally softens the brush material, which oil will. That will tend to break down the brush even quicker and foul the comb slots. In a perfect world, you'd like to break in a perfect
I
world.
agree with everything you said, but I mean,
Pardon?
and I did that, and for a long time I was using water, but I wasn't using tap water. I was using deionized water. I made sure there was no lime scale, nothing in there like that. But you know, water has impacts on the bearings as well as the brushes. And what I found is that that I found better results because water doesn't create a film on the commutator, and the ideal solution leaves a film on the commutator that increases the electrical conductivity and lubricates the commutator so that the contact friction is less. At 30,000 RPM, that's a hell of a speed for friction to surface friction.
Right.
So, I know that a lot of people would disagree, and I would agree that with the wrong oils, and I know people who use diesel and rubbish like that, you foul the commutator gaps. But with careful consideration of the products that are out there, there are things out there that can be used that will work.
Well, if you ask some of the best motor builders, they will tell you if you have time, the best thing to use to break your motor in is no electricity. Anytime you introduce electricity, you're introducing a spark, which can pit the comm. So a lot of high-end motor builders will attach a Dremel rotary disc flexible arm and just spin the motor very slowly without any electricity at all. There's no chance of introducing arcing and pitting of the comm.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, and I do that, and it is a good idea, and it does bring benefits. If you use an old motor to drive a new motor, the first stages of running are best done without even any spark, no power to the motor at all. But these are all really dark arts type things, and I wouldn't recommend any of this stuff to anybody because I wouldn't want anybody complaining to me that they broke their motor doing this kind of stuff because they heard me say, do this, do that, do the other. So I don't, I'll tell everybody anything I know about slot cars, but when it comes to fluids in motors, I really don't want to discuss it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the whole breaking in of our plastic toy car motors is a bit suspect anyway, because you're assuming that a 25-cent motor has a perfectly straight armature shaft and a perfectly concentric comm, which is a bit of a stretch. So, everything counts.
They don't have concentric comms. They don't have true spindles. And the best thing you can do is go out and buy 5 motors. And when you start, that's why I bought 2 motors for the Ferrari. When you start, you run them up and you choose the one that's best before you even start anything. So yeah, having a bunch of motors and choosing one that's straight, flat, doesn't buzz, and runs properly, and ideally runs quicker one way than the other is a good start point.
Yeah. If you, a little tip for you, if you buy your motors from a shop and they'll let you touch the packages, hold the motor in one hand and try and slide the motor shaft back and forth in the can. If it slides smoothly, there's a better chance that it's a good motor than if there's a hitch in it.
Definitely. I mean, I mail order motors, so I don't get the chance. But when I used to do radio control, 12 scale RC, I used to talk to a guy from Associated Electrics, and he said if the armature sits in the middle of the 2 bearings, and you can move it 1/4 millimeter either way, and it pushes right back into the middle, it doesn't run on one of those bearings, you're already ahead of the game.
Right.
So yeah, having something that sits in the middle that the magnets are done. But in what we're doing, really the chances of getting a motor like that, every now and again, I find a motor and I take it out of the packet and I do that and immediately think that's good. You know, that's not running on one of the end bushes. But, you know, it's like you said, 50-cent toy motors. What can you expect?
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, they're, you know, and you know, whether your toothbrush goes at 15,000 RPM or 18,000 RPM is sort of irrelevant. So that's the amount of sophistication in the motor, right? Like, how fast do you want your wing mirrors to close?
But it's fun to build a slot car out of a toothbrush motor.
Well, that's what all these motors are.
That's what they are, John.
Not necessarily, but I mean, DVD player and, you know, electronics, they are not slot car motors.
Yep. Do we have any club corner anybody wants to share?
No, I got show and tell.
Question.
You got a show and tell, Paul?
Go on in.
All right, hurry up.
Sorry.
Never seen that. Wow.
Okay,
that's the Spirit one that I bought for 15 quid, which was running on rubbish. It's now got an LSR chassis, thunder slot interior, and a homemade wing.
Oh, the wing's the best part.
That's a beautiful car.
Shut up. I just thrown it in the box now.
Have you run it? Does it run well?
Yeah, it does run really well.
Well, it's got an NSR chassis.
Yeah.
Tony, were you wanting to share something? I thought I heard your voice.
Chris, a question.
Okay.
You know, when you said breaking motors with water, is that hard water or soft water?
Any
water, it doesn't. You're going to flush it out. It's only going to be in there 15 minutes. It's not going to be a big. Put it in a glass of water and let it spin around nice and slowly. Let it sit in there for 10 or 15 minutes, and it doesn't hard. Doesn't matter if you're adding lemon juice or whale tears or, you know, any of that stuff.
What part of London are you in, Tony?
Southeast, Catford, same Missouri.
Catford, that's all right.
I wouldn't.
That'd be fine, mate. Just use.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
As long as they're not doing any fracking in your neighborhood, you'll be fine.
Yeah. I wouldn't break motors in the UK period.
All right, moving on. Jim has his hand up. Let's hear about shenanigans in your area, Jim.
Shenanigans. Okay.
Shenanigans. We love shenanigans.
We had a race last weekend, and we're back at Motown Raceway with our normals F1 and slotted Group C. We had a pretty good turnout. 14 cars, I think, in Group C and 13 in F1. It's the first time we did tech, and we found some cars that didn't go through tech. So most of them were cosmetic things. A lot of people didn't put inserts on the F1 wheels and things like that. We did find one car that had spacers on the rear axle in Group C, and that car actually won. But it wasn't. I didn't deem it to be a big deal. It wasn't really spacing the gear. It was just there to take up slack. So it was not disqualified, but it was noted. Here's our Group C field. See, there are a couple Jaguars, only one Castrol Jaguar. There's a West Jaguar in the very top back and my Marlboro pseudo livery in the front, and a lot of other cars. And we are looking into whether or not we want to ban the Jaguar. At the least, we're going to make the Jaguar run to the width of the other cars as far as the rear track.
I was going to say,
if we don't ban it, we will definitely do that.
Make them wear the fender covers.
Well, that was an option too. Either wear the fender covers, or if you don't have them for whatever reason, you have to bring the width down to basically what a Nissan is or what the other cars are. And so that's an option we're looking at there.
Is that with the stock wheels?
Yes, we run stock wheels on them.
Okay.
So
it's that much better, just stock.
With stock wheels, I don't think it's that much better, but I think it's easier to drive on these big tracks.
Yeah,
easier to drive consistently.
It's still a couple.
So we're kicking that around whether this is going to be a Mosler or we're just going to let it go into the class. Here's the results from the race and the podium. We had a new winner, which was good. You know, we typically have 2 or 3 guys that have won most of the races, and they have a new guy who's primarily an HO racer come in and beat the regulars. Was great. And he was running a Lancia. He wasn't the fastest car on the track. The Jaguars were really fast, but he drove a better race. Some of the Jaguar guys, myself included, ran into issues that were self-inflicted, and he won the race on the last, almost the last corner of the last lap. Ian was leading, coming out of the lead on, and Paul passed him for the win.
Cool. Does Herman race with you guys a lot?
Yeah, he has now the last 2 or 3 months. Yeah, he's racing all the time with us.
Okay.
He was at the Electric Dreams race, the slot at National.
I saw him there, and I was surprised. I haven't seen him in. We used to race a lot of Eurosport together, wing car stuff years ago, and I haven't seen him in years. And then I saw him at the Electric Dreams race.
Yeah, he's racing regularly with us now.
Oh, good.
There's some great liveries there.
That's what I was. First thing I was going to mention on this is those front 5 and the Ferrari on the behind the purple Jaguar livery. Those are all custom liveries, or repaints, or whatever you want to call them. And so we did chastise the 2 green cars in the back for not having any livery at all. We it's in the rules, minimum of 3 numbers, and we kind of like to have them look good. That doesn't mean you have to go out and spend a lot of time and do like some of the guys in the front. You know, just a regular living like the Beatrice or the Camel Lotus. I still think my Camel Lotus, which is a repaint, looks better because I think the color is more accurate. And I'm not a builder, a model builder, so to speak, by any means, but that's just a repaint with camel, to me, a camel yellow, and then the Senna helmet, and IndyCal's decals. So that's a really easy car to do. The one on the left is a little harder. The 2 on the right were done by Ian. I think the 3 on the right were done by Ian Douglas. He did the
I'll bet you that Honda actually drove better than the real car too.
Honda didn't do so good in the race. It was okay.
No, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
Ian Douglas has been building a lot of these liveries for guys. I'm pretty sure he built Herman's. I know he built the 2 on the right. And so, you know,
They certainly look great though. They're
one of
wonderful.
these days we'll have a concourse, and it's only eligible for repaints or fresh liveries, not the ones you buy out of the store, which is nothing wrong with that.
Jim,
Yeah.
have y'all looked at combining scale auto in with your NSR?
We have, and it was asked, and I turned it down because at this particular racetrack, this was always advertised as an NSR only class.
I got you.
And my reasons for doing that is that we're getting new people from Motown and into this. We didn't want them to have to test 2 different cars to find out which one was better.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the Scale Auto is a superior race car out of the box. It has, I think, it's different chassis. It has a faster motor. And again, these are all opinions, but I feel the motor's faster, even though it's rated the same. Ratings don't mean anything on these motors, especially from brand to brand. But I think the motor is faster. It's geared 1 tooth taller, which on these big tracks will make a difference. And the bottom line is, if you had an NSR, you may have to add $20 or $30 to your car to make it competitive, or buy another car, which these guys have just bought NSR cars. So that's my reasoning behind, at this point in time, keeping this an NSR only class.
Gotcha.
Next year, I'm thinking about opening it up, but if we do, we'd probably do what Electric Dreams does. And if you run a Scale Auto car, you would have to run the NSR drivetrain in it to keep everything, the power on the same level. I don't want people to have to go out and buy new cars to test them to see if it's better and that sort of stuff. So that's my reasoning behind it, good or bad.
Good reasoning, Jim. Keep it, because otherwise you get, if the Scale Auto is a 1/10 of a second, now it becomes a Scale Auto class because nobody's going to run an NSR.
It's 2/10 faster in the testing we did.
Right. So
a couple of guys that know how to build these cars put them together. The Scale Auto was about 2/10 faster. So that would mean that you'd either have to buy one, or you'd have to start modifying, which right now the rules don't allow that. You'd have to put a steeper chassis on it, put another gear in it, and so $20 or $30 into the car you just bought. So that's my reasoning, and
keep the way it is.
And that's why from the very beginning this was a NSR class. It was never advertised as Formula One. It's always been NSR F1, and a couple of races I let people run them just because that's what they had. And so I let it go by in the first couple of races, but now because this is a 3-race series with a championship at the end, I'm not allowing anybody to run Scale Auto. So it's strictly NSR.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So
good for you.
There's the results from that race. Ted Essie, if you race, I know Dennis knows Ted Essie. He's a longtime 24 scale racer, and he's got a new track going in at his house in Loomis, California. I think I showed it last week or the week before. It's almost built. Bob Scott is almost done with it. So we'll have a 4-lane, 8 by 20 foot, 4-lane footprint track, which is going to be really nice home track.
Perfect.
Better than the real life guy.
And there's the podium for Formula One. There's Ted. Ian's doing really well. He's fairly new to 32nd, but he's been racing slot cars for a long time. So we're getting those new people in, which is great. And Ian has put together this website for NorCal. And obviously it's geared to us and the tracks that we have and the race results and so on. It's HO and 32nd because there's a lot of crossover in Northern California. There's virtually none with 24 scale. So this is basically a website for Northern California to find out what's happening, what has happened, what's happening in the future for HO and 32nd scale. That's the address. It is up now. Some things are still not quite complete, so it's still a work in progress, but Ian's created a beautiful website and it's really good information. We've been putting up car setups for the cars that have been winning, you know, so a lot of the new guys to 32nd, you know, what do I do to this thing? What tires do I run, etc. So we're doing that. We're also doing a blatant ripoff of Greg's Worldwide Slot Car Chat. We're doing NorCal Slot Car Chat on Tuesday nights, and it's mainly setup tips for Northern California. So we're kind of keeping it to our own group. If anybody wants to join, they're more than welcome to, but it's kind of a local thing. I'm not trying to compete with Greg, and two, it's just for specific things to Northern California. The other thing, I want to thank everybody. Everybody knows, I think, probably that I have NorCal Slot Car Scene and Vintage Motorsports, my YouTube channel. I want to thank everybody here, as well as everybody out there in YouTube land, or whatever you want to call it. I hit 2,000 subscribers last weekend.
Nice.
So thanks.
Well done, Jim. Well done.
And right now there's 2008, so it's still growing. I took about a 3-month break during the summer. But I'm kind of back to doing not quite as many as I used to do, but 1 a week or so. So it's worked out well. And, you know, I may end up making, I'm not going to make $1,000 this year. I'll probably make about 500. So it keeps me in slot cars a little bit and pays for a little bit of this stuff. So thank you all for subscribing to that.
You're becoming the Bernie Ecclestone of Northern California.
I might become a thousandaire by next year.
You're
So,
making $1,000.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
About the NSR?
Yeah.
How many amps do you drive the car on the track? I drove this one 2 weeks ago, and we have 20 amps under the track, and I've got difficulties with the car getting rolling to the corners because
what kind of track?
A wooden track.
A commercial track that's been spray glued?
It is what?
It's a wood track that's been spray glued or not?
Yeah, spray. No, painted,
we're having
painted.
No, but is there spray glue on the track?
Oh no, not at all.
Okay, haven't had that issue. We're running into that issue at these commercial tracks that are spray glued. So we're searching for tire compounds. We're narrowing the rear tires from 13 down to 10. So it is an issue for us, but I can't imagine it would be an issue. And it's not an issue for us on our club tracks.
But it's got a lot of torque.
It's a 32nd scale slot car motor. They don't pull that much current.
Right.
But do they draw more when your amps is very high on your track?
I'm not sure what the question is.
No, the answer is no. Doesn't matter how many amps you have, the car will only draw what it wants.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's correct.
If you have an adjustable amperage power supply and turn it down, the cars won't draw any more or any less. Like you can't have too many amps, basically.
Yeah, 20 amp power supply and a 200 amp power supply, you won't feel any difference because these cars don't draw 20, let alone 200. So you wouldn't, buying a 200 amp power supply would be useless.
Okay,
Henry, you didn't really tell us what the problem was. You started talking about amps and volts and things, but what is the behavior of the cars that you're seeing that you don't like?
I can take the brake all down. Yeah. We think we tested with a lot of 3 guys, and we don't get the car rolling at the corner because it always stops.
Well, it sounds like you've got too much traction on the rear tires. So try a different rear compound or narrowing the rear tires or something like that, because it sounds like an excess of traction.
Yeah, okay. It's a standard tire.
Sorry, Henry, is it you're saying that the brakes are too vicious? You don't get any roll?
No, correct.
Are you using a slotted controller?
Sorry?
Or which controller are you using?
What the fuck? And base lock.
Yeah, just to go to what he's saying, on the commercial tracks that are brake loaded, we have to turn the brakes virtually all the way off on these cars.
Yeah.
There's so much traction in the track.
It's the MB slot.
MB slot, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so
it works all the time, but with this F1, yeah, I have problems too. It's not driving smooth.
Are those 3 wire connectors, black, white, and red?
Yeah.
You just unhook the red wire, just unhook the brakes, and let it have no brakes.
Smooth compared to what?
Too aggressive in the brake.
No, smooth compared to what?
Yeah, what cars run smoothly?
Yeah, all my cars drive. If I drive this motor on other cars, I don't have the problem. But
is it only the long cans that do this?
Yeah,
because they do have a lot of brakes and a lot of torque, and they're very touchy to drive.
Yeah. Okay.
That's an inherent. That's why, like, when you see Chris building all the proxy cars, they very rarely, if ever, have the long can unless it's a magnetic track, because the short cans are so much smoother.
Yeah.
But with our class, obviously that's the way that car comes, so that's the way we run it. But they do inherently have a lot of brakes that are trickier to drive.
Yeah, but we don't drive them a lot because they have a lot of magnet on it from itself, from the motor. So in our rules, we cannot drive about 25, 30 magnet downforce. So and this
wait.
We never use this motor.
Is this a magnetic track?
Yeah.
That's
that'll do it too.
Yeah, there you go too. It's like an HO car. They will, if you have enough magnetic downforce, they will stop on a dime.
Right.
Okay.
Isn't the inline setup more torquey, or is it less torquey?
More.
Yeah.
Well, not the inline setup, but the long can motor.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have.
You've got the whole thing set right over the rails.
Yeah, we have magnetic brake.
Now, this is an NSR F1 car, right?
Yeah.
Have you taken, because a lot of people don't realize those cars have magnets in them. There is a magnet in there.
No, it isn't.
Okay. That will make the car stop on a dime.
Yeah, I know that for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't think it's a nice car to drive on our track, but I have to try it on the Carrera track over here.
Please.
And then I know.
We've had no problems with them. They are trickier to drive because they do have that abundance of torque, but we're running without magnets.
Yeah, we also. Okay, thank you. I will try on the Carrera track and the Ninko track.
Mike, you got some club activity?
Yeah. Jim.
Go ahead, Chris.
Jim.
Yeah.
If you have a couple of spare sets of tires, what you might want to do is mount them just for a test. Mount a pair in a Dremel in a tire truer. Take a Dremel with a cutoff disc and cut a couple of 2 or 3 grooves in the tire. We used to use that. We used to do that as a real quick fix when we get to a track with an awful lot of glue on it years ago. We just cut a couple of tiny grooves in the tire.
I can try that.
I understand what you're getting at. Yeah.
But with that, in theory, that would create more grip because the rubber is squirming a little bit more, but it would create more straight line speed because there's less.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the diameter that you've got the rear tires with the hubs, nothing squirming there.
We're down to 17 millimeters on these tires.
Right. So there's nothing squirming in there. That's about as
Okay,
solid
yeah.
as you're gonna get.
And
Give it a
Jim,
whirl.
We
Try
also
it.
been,
do you
we have
also
been
put
narrowing them.
Describing is exactly
Oh,
what you're describing. Oh dear, everything's messed up. Now I've lost it. Henry, what you're describing is exactly what I suffered at Moseley at the British Grand Prix. I built this car to go down there. And when I first went down there, the car brakes so viciously on the
Yes.
corners, it was undrivable. And with a slotted controller, I took the brakes almost down to zero.
Mhm.
And at 1, it was still too vicious. At 0, there was no brakes. So
Okay.
it just wasn't anything. So I had to suffer with that. And what I ended up doing was building a choke box to vary the brakes, because their track doesn't have a variable choke box on the plug points. There's nothing special about this, just a series of resistors on a rotary pot. And that on top of this, I tested it 2 weeks ago at Moseley, it made the car wonderful to drive. It was a completely different thing.
If
Now,
you have too much magnet like that, like HO cars typically have this a lot. In HO cars, it's called
Moseley is
coast.
a wood track. Moseley is a wood track. So it doesn't have magnetic downforce. It has braid. It's not magnet braid. It's just the way their brakes are set up. I don't know. It's just too vicious. And so, you know, Henry, you may end up having to do something. I mean, more advanced controllers. Some of the guys were using controllers that are used at BRSCA racing, and their braking went into the other way. In other words, they can push the car when they're supposed to be braking.
Yeah,
So
that's what we
it's a
do in
real thing.
HO. In HO, it's called coast. In 30-second scale, it's called anti-brake. So when you brake, there's still slightly a little current going to the track.
Right.
And so it lessens the brake, so it acts more like a regular car. So you're reducing the brakes because there's just too much inherent brakes. And that's normal in an HO car. You've got to have it.
But for 132, Jim, you can build this, and you can, if you look up choke box, you'll find it on the internet. In fact, I'll find it later and I'll post it on the end of the slot racer invite to this meeting, so that you can see, Henry, this is how you build a choke box for your braking. And I don't know why the inlines do that. These cars do it more than any other car.
Okay,
But
dude,
if you-
so
if you build one of these,
I didn't say something stupid.
No.
I did.
No,
you-
no, not
you're
at all.
not.
No.
What you are discovering is what other people have also discovered.
Okay.
So
So where I am,
growth.
Henry, is yes, I agree with you. I can understand where you're from. Yes, I experienced that issue. I built the box so that I could fix that. I've tested it. It definitely works at a specific track, and that's the Moseley wood track down in Surrey. So yes, it's not stupid. There is something very specific about a long canyon line and some tracks that make the braking too vicious to be drivable. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mike, you took your hand down. Did you not want to share what you guys had some fun racing?
I forgot what it was. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we got 10 minutes left to waste.
Oh, I guess come to think of it, I can talk about the racing I did yesterday, despite having one eye. I had cataract surgery on Monday. Well, the other eye is going to get done next Monday, so we'll see what happens after that. But I was able to race, and I've got the videos up on my YouTube channel, which is Road America Northwest. If anybody wants to see them, I forgot to turn it off on one, so there's a bit of stuff on the tail end about setting up the ghost cars that I was running, and the ghost cars made life really interesting, especially for my Nissan GTR, as you know, if you want to look at that. But at any rate, it was great fun regardless, and some close racing. All of the races except the one with the GTR finished within 1 or 2 laps of each other, and at the end, despite it. So it's really, really good time.
Just need to get more guys in there.
Yes, I agree. I'm working on it.
Yeah. All right, Jim, you got your hand back up. You're still muted. You're muted. You're muted. Let's try this. There we go. Come on, man, unmute.
There we go.
There you
Sorry.
go.
This is happening as we speak, and this is the World Championships for 24 scale slot car racing. They're in the quarterfinals of F1, and the reason I thought I'd bring this up is at the top of the leaderboard with one heat to go. So the worst he can do is 9th, which will put him in the semi. Is Justin Colvin from Sacramento, and so this is happening as we speak in Latvia, and there's like 80 or 90 entries, and the top 24 after the quarterfinals go to the semis, and Justin is at the leaderboard right now with only 8 guys to go.
What are they racing in this particular? What race is this?
F1.
Oh, okay.
They already did 132nd Eurosport, and F1 is happening today, and then 24th Eurosport's last. And Justin and Paul Goronsky finished 4th in the production race that was held on Sunday, I think. So this is the 3rd of 4 races.
Well,
So
I'm stunned. I'm stunned to see Paul in 24th.
yeah, he's back there. So the best he can, he's going to drop down even more after the A
Well,
heat.
yes, he's something's happened to the car.
Yeah, so he's not going to make the quarters
No.
in this. So, but
He
Justin's up there.
He normally wins these fairly easily.
Yeah, so Justin's up there. So one of the guys, guy I race with all the time, more or less. He's a local guy from Sacramento that works at Fast Track Hobbies.
And just to let everybody know, this is in Latvia.
Yeah.
Latvia.
So they're 10 hours ahead.
Yeah.
So it's late back
there. Yeah. That's pretty cool. And that's on Twitch right now?
Yep.
Is Courtney here? He's not here.
I don't see him. He'll probably watch the video later. You got a message for Courtney?
Yeah, no, well, Courtney asked me about chassis for the flexi portion of Latvia, and we sent a couple over in June, and they were competing. They were every bit as good as the JKC 43s, but they're not, and they were tested by Chris Radicic, who's the sort of the director of ISRA these days, and we're just waiting to get approval, homologation to get the chassis to compete. But he races Mazzetti chassis on the bank tracks and just wanted to know what pan configuration he should run for the flat tracks like ISRA. So I was hoping he was here. I just was going to give him some brand numbers and code numbers and stuff, but I'll get him later.
And for those of you that don't know about the 24 scale worlds, these guys have been there over a week already. Justin left on Saturday a week and a half ago or 10 days ago and practiced for 4 or 5 days, and they're racing through the weekend. So it's a 2.5 week affair pretty much if you want to attend this and or be competitive if you are competitive. So it's and these are not cheap cars. So what do you think, Chris? About $1,000 for Eurosport, give or take?
Well, the cars are actually not that bad.
If you had to buy one.
Well, $450 for a motor times 5 or 6 for a week is that gets pricey.
Yeah. So interesting event, and it's held all over the world. I think it's in the U.S. next year for the first time.
Yes, next year is in New Jersey. I believe.
If you're anywhere out there
this year, they had a warm-up race in Latvia in June. The Worlds are in June, well, as we speak, and then next year they're going to. No, I'm sorry, that's a lie. They're in Atlantic City next year.
If you're anywhere near it, definitely worth taking a shot and looking at it.
Worlds, yeah.
It's interesting.
Good stuff. All right. Well,
different kind of racing.
It is, but it's slot cars racing, and we are open to all kinds of slot car racing. If you got a car,
this is scale racing. This is not wing car racing. So these are cars that do have downforce, but they're it's called scale, however you want to determine that.
Yeah.
Not wing car type cars.
You can call them whatever you want. They're far from scale.
But they're still Lexan bodies and
scale, except for other than the F1 cars, which are mandated to have front wheels. There's no front wheels on any other car in the whole bloody race.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious. $450 motor. Now, what are you getting for that? Speed, durability, or both?
You're getting lots of speed and no durability.
Oh,
You're
shit.
gonna run that motor for 10 or 12 minutes, and then it's probably got to go in for a $60 to $70 rebuild. Most of it, depending on the track, the Latvia track's not all that quick. Guys will pick wines, so the motors are probably in the 180 to 190,000 RPM range, where a proper wing car Group 7 motor will be 225,000 RPM plus. So obviously the little tin can things that there's not one piece of a slotted motor or like the can, the magnets, the bushings, the armature, there's not one individual element of those motors that will run much more than about 60 or 70,000 RPM before it completely disintegrates. So you're not using soft steel motor shafts, you're using drill blanks, you're using high precision ball bearings, multi-piece magnets, each segment of the magnet secured to the can so it faces the center of the core of the arm. Precise, precision.
How many segments are they running on magnets in Eurosport?
Sorry?
How many segments on a magnet in a Eurosport car?
The motors are open.
Yeah, but how many on one magnet? How many segments are there in a magnet?
There could be anywhere from 4 to 10, depending on that will again depend on the stack length and the stack diameter. Like it really gets complicated. So stack length, stack diameter. Are you running a 2 mil shaft? Are you running a 1.5 mil shaft? There's lots and lots of technicalities and stuff that goes on.
This is like the difference between the motor in your Toyota Corolla and an F1 motor, based on the motors that we race, based on what they're running in these cars.
Yeah,
it's that.
It was funny. Just before I left here, I was up at the shop, and we were just getting a couple of Eurosport 30-second Formula One cars ready for a guy to ship out. And, driving those, I hadn't driven one in a couple of months, and it's staggering how it's insane how fast these things are.
Well, to give you an idea, our F1 cars get around the fast track hobbies track in the high 7s.
Right.
They ran the Eurosport, the US Nationals for Eurosport, and they were in the 3s.
Yeah. Well, the current world record is held by a guy named Brad Friesner, who lives like 20 minutes from me. I've known Brad forever and ever and ever. And he holds the current wing car world record on a Blue King, which is 155 feet, 8 turns. And in qualifying, he went 1.1 seconds.
Which is my math serves me right. Isn't it like about 100 mile an hour average?
Oh, it's like, yeah, you can't, like, it's just,
yeah,
they're unbelievable to drive, but you can't, the things we can do with the cars over your, you can have fun with your buddies. You can have a beer with this stuff. You can't invite guys into your basement and have them drive winning cars. You'd just be, it costs you a fortune every Friday night to keep guys in cars.
Well, that's the one of the guys that I think I think you mentioned, Herman James. Herman has run these world championships.
Oh yeah, I've raced with Herman several times.
But he said this is, now that he's started a racing 32nd scale, he says this is the most fun he's ever had racing flat.
Well, right. It's fun. It's the wing cars are almost so bloody fast that when you go up to qualify, like you're petrified. Like you're going, they're just insanely fast.
You have something you wanted to squeeze in at the end, Big Den?
Yeah, just a warning to everyone, don't use one of those motors in your toothbrush.
All right. Great note to end on. We're going to hit the stop button and see everybody next week. Bye.